The gentleman from Alexandria, Mr. Levine.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in commemoration of Black History Month, and I must admit I do so with a little bit of trepidation. After all, I am not African American. But I'm reminded that Black history, I'm not. Well, I'm American and we all come from Africa way back. But nonetheless, I'm reminded that Black history is American history. And Black history is very much part of who we are as Americans. And it's actually part of my own personal family history, which I'd like to briefly share with you. My great-grandfather came here more than a century ago, fleeing religious persecution in Russia. He was just a shirt on his back. He sold women's dresses door to door as a peddler. My grandfather had 6 stores in New Orleans and southern Mississippi. My grandfather never distinguished in his stores between white customers and black customers. He said a customer is a customer and all were welcome in his stores. And if some white women didn't want to wear dresses that black women had tried on, well, they left my grandfather's store unhappy. He later moved to Nashville, Tennessee. My mom and my Aunt Benita, her older sister, grew up in Nashville. And in the 1960s, my Aunt Benita went off to college. And like many in the 1960s, she became what we might call a hippie today. She had hair down to her waist. Her husband had long beard, a long hair. And they drove a VW microbus with New York plates. Well, in 1964, my aunt went back to her home place of birth in Mississippi with a mission to register black people in Mississippi. And she drove through, I'm sure she drove through Virginia, Mr. Speaker. She drove through Nashville, Tennessee, stayed with my grandfather, her father. And she told my grandfather her mission. And to her shock and dismay, he told her not to go. And she said, "But Daddy, these are your values." And Mr. Speaker, he said, "They are my values, but I have another value. And that is I don't want my daughter to get killed." You see, just that summer, Schwerner and Goodman and Cheney had been murdered by the Mississippi police in league with the Ku Klux Klan. And my grandfather did not want his daughter to share their fate. So I'm told they argued into the night and they came up with a compromise. My aunt would go down to Mississippi to register black people to vote, but she wouldn't take her VW microbus with the New York plates. She'd take my grandfather's Chevrolet with Tennessee plates, so they wouldn't serve as a target. And I must say, that story, which occurred before I was born, has always inspired me. The bravery and idealism of my aunt, combined with the practicality and caution of my grandfather. My aunt did spend with my uncle all summer long registering hundreds of black people in 1964 in Mississippi. Hundreds of young people did, black and white, and that summer is now known as Mississippi Freedom Summer, and it's always been a very proud part of my family's history. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.